Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another video of Ivan's Wheels. So, in September 2015, we took delivery of our beloved Honda Jazz. And 58,000 kilometers and 7 years later, it's time to say goodbye. So, in this video, I'm going to sum up our ownership experience with our Honda Jazz. I'm going to tell you about the good, the bad, and then we're also going to take it for a drive. So, let's start off with the pros of the Honda Jazz. So, probably the thing that I like about it the most is the reliability of this car. So, it's been over 7 years, it's going to turn 8 this year, so about 7.5. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this, it's never broken down apart from a dead battery once. We own a Jeep Compass and a Hyundai Tucson. Both those cars within 3 years have had some sort of the problem or the other, but the Jazz in over twice that span hasn't had a single problem, and it's pretty amazing. And it's not that we have taken impeccable care of it, you know, it's been used like a daily driver, it's been beaten hard, but it's never shown any signs of breaking down. So it's probably one of the most reliable cars in the world. CarWow made a video of the most reliable cars and the Honda Jazz was number 1 on that list, and I can definitely confirm. Next thing I like about our 2015 Jazz is that it's a very easy car to drive in the city. So it has a light steering wheel and it's the perfect size, so finding parking spaces is much easier in the Jazz compared to other larger cars. Also, the chassis of the Jazz is surprisingly good. I've sat in a Nissan Magnite on the same University Road, and the Jazz feels significantly more planted and stable on the highway compared to the Magnite, which is a compact SUV, but this in fact has a better chassis. Another good thing about the Honda Jazz that proves it's an excellent city car is that the mileage is quite good. City driving and highway driving combined, it gives an average of somewhere between 12 to 14 kilometers per litre, which is decent. Now that we are already on the interior of the Jazz, let me give you a quick run through. So I think the only thing we have changed since we bought the car are these seats. So the Jazz originally came with fabric seats, but these have a nice leatherette cover on them now. So if you look at the car, the main thing you can notice is that the technology is really starting to lag now in 2023. You observe it's been 8 years, going to be 8 years soon since the Jazz has come out, and the difference in technology is quite shocking, to be honest. Cars have really progressed a lot in these 8 years. In the rest of the aspects like the design, the comfort, they haven't progressed as much as they have in technology, and that really shows. So the Jazz as a car, it's quite practical, you know. There are a lot of cubby holes here in the center console where you can store a lot of stuff, and in the front as well. And the the glove box is pretty decently sized as well. So a nice and well thought out cabin. So those are the things that I really love about our Honda Jazz. Now let's move on to the things that I don't love so much. So probably the thing that I dislike about it the most is the suspension on this car. So a few years back, the suspension went bad, it was crashing through bumps, so we got the suspension replaced, and in another few months, the same thing happened. The suspension got worn out again. So I did some research on this and found out the suspension in the Honda Jazz, its main problem, it's not that long lasting. So we had one suspension change with it, and even now it rides quite bad. So through bumps it crashes a lot. We are going to go for a drive in the Jazz in this video, so I'll show you what I mean then. Another thing I'm not a fan of the Jazz is the engine and gearbox combination. So as for the specs, it's a 1.2 litre 4-cylinder naturally aspirated petrol unit mated to a CVT transmission. So to just sum it up quickly, it's not a very powerful and enthusiastic unit. The CVT transmission has a really bad rubber band effect, so the revs climb but the car barely moves forward. and because of that the engine is a pretty good unit actually if it's mated with the manual transmission. But here the transmission along with the engine just makes the car feel underpowered.
So guys, now we're driving the Jazz around. The NVH levels are decent, not amazing, but it insulates the road good enough. So, two things that I wanted to show y'all. First, the suspension. Currently we are on a smooth road, so we'll come to that later. But let's talk about the engine experience. Let me show you what it feels like when you floor this car. Okay, so now it's at full throttle, and as you can see, the Laura in front of us is going, but the Jazz barely moves. The rubber band effect of the CVT transmission is really prominent. The engine is making a lot of noise, but that doesn't really translate into much speed.
So now we're coming to some rumble strips and some more.
So, as you may have noticed there, it was quite noisy, but apart from that, it wasn't really comfortable either. The car shakes around a lot and it crashes through most bumps and potholes. Not a great suspension setup. Yeah, so that's been it. And it's overall a pretty nice car, but it's significantly better in the city compared to the highway. So I think we'll cut this drive now. Anything to say?
All good things come to an end.
Yes.
Thank you, Jazz.
And so does the time of the Jazz with us come to an end. So let's get to the conclusion now. So to conclude, I would say over 7.5 years and 58,000 kilometers of ownership, the Jazz has been a very reliable and faithful car. It's never let us down and has completed all its duties just as it's supposed to, and it's gonna hurt to see it go. And the last thing to do was to take our dog Turbo for the last drive in the Jazz. If you like this video, please don't forget to smash the thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel and click on the bell icon to never miss any of my new uploads.